In this portions of the videos, we will start to talk about how we're going to recreate this game poly version. And so what we're doing is we're going to create a low poly version that can then have the high poly material baked onto. So we're going to start off with the base as we did earlier. In fact, I'm actually going to I'm going to select everything we have here, including the glass. I'm going to just make this a medium gray. So what I want to do is just start off, there are a number of ways to doing this. I'm going to start off by just creating a box. Okay, so just like how we did before, I'm going to now, I like to use blue. It seems like it appears pretty well. I can see the white lines really nice and sharp, and then when I click off it usually the lines kind of hide it a little better to get an idea how it'll look. So I'm going to convert to editable poly, and this is my face selections. I'm going to put my snap toggle, and I'm going to I'm going to select this, and I'm going to snap that there. Snap this right along there. So just like how we did before, we're just snapping all these faces to now the high poly, opposed to earlier we're snapping it to the kind of our reference mesh. Okay. So like so. Perfect. And now what we want to do is inset this. In fact, I'm just going to select these two items here, and I'm going to just isolate them with my Alt Q. So now I'm going to select onto my high poly version again. If I go to the top, I'm going to inset this a bit. Okay. And actually, I'm going to I'm going to make this kind of X-ray view. So by selecting this Alt X, I can make the X-ray view. What I want to do here is I want to just find, okay. And I want to make sure to lock this right along our ring here. Okay. So I just need to make sure to find those edges like so. Okay. And just snap it to the outside. Oops. So let me just make sure I have all these snapped properly. Because when you're in top view, it's kind of hard to see these edges right. Okay. Yep. So what I want to do here is, again, I would like to select this and extrude up. And now I'm going to snap this to the edge there. Okay. So what we have here is, as you can see, this is a really round edge. So when we're baking it, we're going to probably need to soften these corners up a bit too. So I'm going to select all these four corners. I want something that's going to be close to matching this curvature, but not anything too high detailed. So maybe something a little more, something kind of like this. So as you can see, we can see gray starting to poke out, which is what we're wanting here. just barely, kind of matching that curve. Okay, perfect. And so now I want to do the same thing here. I want this to match the curve there. So I'm going to chamfer this. And let's see. This one should not be as many divisions since we will, or segments, since we're going to be, this is just a smaller chamfer. Okay. That seems to be pretty good. So now this larger portion up here, I want to select that. And I'm going to chamfer this portion. This one will be a little bigger. So make sure we're pretty much completely okay. So that seems pretty good. And then lastly, what we need to do here is just inset one more time, and we'll just collapse this like so. Okay, and we can get rid, since this will never be seen, we can actually get rid of that bottom portion. So now what we have here is our base low poly. So if you were to select this, we see that our base high poly is 281 polygons. Our base low poly is 128. So about half of what the geometry. And in this situation, it's not going to show up as much. Whereas the next one, we'll see, or the next coming shapes, we'll see it's going to be significantly different. So really, this is kind of the process of the kind of retopo, and so this can be quite time consuming. I think what I'll do is I'm going to kind of go through a couple of the bigger easy ones, such as as you can, so we had our base here. So I'm gonna off screen go through a few of these bigger ones. Maybe I'll go through items such as this one here, maybe some of the door. And so I'm just gonna go through the bigger ones so that way you aren't sitting there watching me. And what I could possibly do is even do a kind of speed up a video of me. So we'll start off by just hiding what I already have unwrapped, using our geometry we've already created for the high poly to kind of use as our reference point now for the low poly. Keep in mind we are trying to create the same shape, but just a low definition version. And something else to note is make sure that you delete polygons that will not be seen, because that's just going to be wasted texture space that we could have used. If they aren't going to be seen, then there's no reason in creating them. So, and now just also keep our model a lower resolution, which then equals better performance in the game engine. So the handle, I'm just matching this up. It's a real simple rectangle with a couple extrudes on the ends and then a little chamfer to give it kind of that soft edge like you see. The shelf on the ends, or the inside, I have the cooler, and I have to recreate these tiny little kind of cooler ridges at the bottom. I'm just gonna use a simple box 5 sides. I'm going to delete the underside. And once I get those all made up, I'm going to attach them. Same thing, delete the unseen polygons as you see there. I won't be seeing those, so I delete them. And once I'm complete with that, I just hide it. And now onto the light. I had a lot of extra unnecessary polygons just more or less the loops in there. And so something to keep in mind is circles really quickly can be high resolution. So in here, kind of like I discussed in the earlier in this video, we're creating just the one. We're just creating the one vent, and then once that one vent is created, I'm actually going to unwrap that vent, and in this case I'm unwrapping it now, but I'll unwrap it and then I want to copy it down so we now have 6 identical vents that are already unwrapped, and they can share the same texture as well. So as you see there, it's all texture. Now I can just copy it over, and those are ready to go. So for this portion here, I noticed that both sides will never be seen at the same time. So what I want to do here is I'm actually going to try to get down as low resolution as I can. And then once I do that, I'm going to cut it in half. As you can see here, I just chopped it in half. I'm then going to unwrap the whole entire model. As you can see on my left side of the screen here, I'm unwrapping it. And then once it's unwrapped, I can just do a symmetry modifier, and it is ready to go. So now it's completely unwrapped and ready for texturing. The bottle, again, we are just going to delete any of those high definition edges that we didn't need or don't need for our low poly version, and that's pretty straightforward. This again, just a rectangle that you're just going to then add a shell modifier to soften the edges for both these panels. These panels are pretty straightforward. And just make sure that you have no n-gons, which are just kind of really weird 5-sided or more polygons. And so that's why I just collapse it to the middle, and that creates a bunch of triangles opposed to a really weird shape here. So with this here, I noticed that I can actually reduce the circle quite a bit, the kind of coin slot, and then I can actually copy, because I want to keep that same kind of curvature. So I'm going to just copy that over and use that to create the coin return. And using the high poly geometry I had, I'm just going to delete some of the unnecessary edges to create the coin catch. Again, just reducing what we don't need, any polygons I see unnecessary. So for this, it's kind of strange. We want the chord to be high definition, but we don't want it to be so low poly that it's going to show. So I just left the chord at a 16-sided. And then a note I like to make here is I probably spent a little bit too long on this, and that's my own fault, because I had, it'd be easier if this would have been a lined up perfectly on the I have it rotated, and I probably should have modeled it first and then positioned to rotate it later on. So that's a mistake I made. I'll be thinking about it in future videos and future models. If you're going to rotate things on kind of a weird axis, make sure I model it first on kind of a typical 90-degree axis, and then I will rotate as needed. It just would be a lot less headache. So I'm just going to model the just kind of using the really generic shapes, and then here I'm going to model the one kind of plug-in, and once that's completely modeled, I will then I'll unwrap that and I'll duplicate over to the other side. So you see here I'm creating this geometry for that, and actually I end up using a Boolean. So I create a sphere or a cylinder, and then I just put it where I want it to be, and then I used the Boolean tool and I knocked it out like that, and I kind of then cleaned up the topology and used that to and just copy that over like so. Okay, and the vents, so something I want to note on the vents is we don't have to actually model in those little slats that you see, because they're going to be baked. That slat will actually show up. So I'm just going to put it about halfway into the slats and then allow the baking of the low poly and high poly to actually make their illusion of the slats. So here you're really just going to pretty much create just the panel, and then the slats will be again baked in later on. So as you see, that one is completed. Now we will move on to the backside. Same thing. Don't worry about actually modeling out the bolts or the slats, because this will all be baked in the end. So I just want to make sure that I push in the when I get to the kind of air slats of the vent, I just want to make sure to push it in enough that it's going to that it'll actually have that appearance of being there, but not without actually having to waste the geometry or the polygons of making those slats. So same with the bolt, that will again be kind of baked onto it in the end. Okay, so I'm just cleaning this up, and now that is this is all ready to go. Just chamfer a few edges, just make sure it looks, the baking works well. The fan, just need to bring down I take the high poly cylinder, I'm bringing it down to just the low definition version, and then right here, as you see these fan blades, I actually want to just create the one fan blade. Just a single fan blade is all I need to create. And then once I create a single one, I'm actually going to unwrap it. In this video, you can see me unwrapping it, twisting it in place. And then after I unwrap it, as you can see there, and get it all ready to go, I will actually duplicate that 6 times the way we did the high poly version. And the reason I do that is so that way we can recycle the same texture. So now here I'm actually deleting any of the geometry that we won't be seeing. So I delete the backs because you'll never see the back of this. And then I'm just kind of wrapping it all up, and everything's starting to look good. Make sure my naming convention is right. Everything lines up. I'm now grouping it, and on the next video we'll start to unwrap each model.